Welcome back to Farang Footprints, where real stories unfold far away from home, under foreign skies, in places where dreams often arrive faster than wisdom. Today's story is told by Clara, a woman who believed that love, honesty, and a bit of courage could still change the direction of a life. She did not come to Thailand looking to be rescued. She came looking for space, for warmth, for something real after everything familiar had fallen apart. She trusted conversations. She trusted consistency. She trusted the way it felt. Until one holiday in Phuket taught her that love can sound sincere even when it is carefully rehearsed, and that the most dangerous lies are the ones wrapped in affection. This is not a story about stupidity. It is a story about hope, loneliness, and the quiet moments where doubt whispers, but love speaks louder. This is Clara's story, told in her own words.
My name is Clara. And for most of my life, I believed that if you tried hard enough, if you were patient enough, things would eventually fall into place. I am in my mid-30s. I grew up in Spain, in a place where people value structure, where you are taught that stability is something you earn over time. I followed that logic. I studied. I worked. I planned ahead. I stayed in relationships longer than I should have because leaving felt irresponsible, because walking away felt like giving up. For almost 10 years, my life moved in a steady, predictable rhythm. Work, commute, evenings that blended into each other, conversations about the future that sounded serious but never really changed anything. And then, quietly, it ended. No shouting, no betrayal, no dramatic moment you could point to. Just two people realizing they were tired. Tired of pretending, tired of hoping something would fix itself. When it was over, people told me I handled it well. They said things like, "At least it was mutual," or, "You are still young, you will be fine." But strength is a strange word. Most days, I did not feel strong. I felt hollow. Empty apartments are loud. They do not let you escape your thoughts. Every sound feels bigger. Every evening feels longer. Thailand was not part of some carefully designed plan. It was not a journey of self-discovery. It was distance, plain and simple. A friend mentioned it casually one afternoon. "Go somewhere warm," she said. "Somewhere that does not remind you of your routine." I laughed it off at first. Then I'll done not. A few weeks later, I booked a ticket. Phuket, 2 weeks. No expectations. The moment I arrived, everything felt unreal. The heat wrapped around you instantly. The air smelled different. People smiled without explanation. Back home, smiles usually come with reasons or caution. Here, they felt effortless, almost generous. I told myself I was just relaxed, that this was what holidays were supposed to feel like, but something inside me softened, more than I expected. I spent my days walking, along the beach, through narrow streets where scooters passed far too close without anyone getting angry. At night, I sat alone in cafes, listening to languages I did not understand, watching lives that were not mine. That is where I met him. Not in a nightclub, not under flashing lights. It was early evening, that quiet moment when the heat eases and the sky starts to change color. I was sitting alone, a cold drink in front of me, scrolling aimlessly on my phone, when a man stopped near my table and asked if the seat was taken. His name was Niran. He did not flirt, did not joke, did not try to impress me. He just talked. He asked where I was from, how long I was staying, what I thought of Thailand so far. Normal questions, gentle questions. His English was good, not perfect, careful. What stood out was that he listened, really listened. We talked for almost 2 hours, about work, about family, about how strange it feels to start over when you are no longer 20. He did not touch me, did not rush anything, did not suggest where the evening should go next. When we finally stood up, exchanging numbers felt natural, almost casual. Back in my hotel room that night, I remember smiling to myself, not because I felt excited, but because it felt easy. I was not looking for love. I was not looking for anything at all. And that, I would later understand, was exactly what made me vulnerable. The next morning, there was a message on my phone. "Good morning, Clara." It was simple. It should not have mattered, but it did. Because it felt personal, because it felt intentional, because it felt real, and I had no idea that this small moment would become the first step into a story I would one day have to tell, like this. After that first message, things moved quietly, almost carefully. There was no rush, no sudden intensity, just messages in the morning, a question about my day, a photo of the beach I was about to walk along. We met again that evening, and the evening after that, sometimes for dinner, sometimes just for a drink, sometimes to walk without really knowing where we were going. What struck me was how ordinary it all felt. There were no big gestures, no dramatic compliments, no promises, just presence. Niran talked about his family, his mother in the north, a younger sister who was still studying. He talked about responsibility, the way people do when it has shaped them early. He asked about my life back home, not just what I did for work, but how I felt about it. No one had asked me that in a long time. I told him about the relationship that had ended, about the quiet disappointment, about the fear of starting over. He did not interrupt. He did not try to fix it. He just listened. There is something disarming about that, when someone does not rush to reassure you, when they do not tell you everything will be fine. It makes you feel seen. By the end of the first week, being together felt normal, not exciting in a dramatic way, comfortable, easy. On my last night in Phuket, we sat near the beach. The music was low, the air was warm, people laughed somewhere behind us. Neither of us talked about the obvious, the fact that I was leaving, the fact that this was supposed to end here. At the airport the next morning, the goodbye was gentle. No promises spoken out loud. Just a long hug that lasted a few seconds too long. On the plane, I told myself the same thing over and over. This was a holiday connection. A nice memory, nothing more. But memories do not usually text you once you have landed. "Did you arrive safely?" I smiled when I saw the message. I told myself it did not mean anything. Then came the calls, not constantly, not obsessively, just enough to feel intentional. He called in the evenings, when I was home from work. Sometimes we talked for 10 minutes, sometimes for an hour, about nothing, about everything. The distance made us talk differently, more honestly, more carefully. There was no physical distraction, just words. After a few weeks, he said it for the first time. "I think I'm falling in love with you." I remember not answering right away, not because I did not feel it, but because I was afraid of how easily it felt true. When I finally said it back, it surprised me how natural the words sounded, like they had been waiting. We started talking about the future, in vague, harmless ways. What if you came back? What if I visited you? Nothing concrete, nothing serious. But repetition turns ideas into possibilities, and possibilities into plans. Every day, he showed up, every call, every message. Consistency does something to you. It builds trust without asking permission. I ignored the quiet voice in my head that told me to slow down, because everything matched: the words, the behavior, the timing. And because, for the first time in a long while, I did not feel alone. Looking back now, I understand how carefully everything was paced, how nothing felt forced, how nothing felt wrong. But at the time, it felt real. And when something feels real, you stop asking what it might cost you later. Somewhere along the way, the conversations changed. Not suddenly, not obviously, they just became more specific. At first, it was harmless. What would you do if you lived somewhere else? Could you imagine leaving Europe one day? Questions like that. Questions that sound like curiosity. Then one evening, Niran said something different. I do not think this is just a holiday thing. I remember smiling when he said it, because I felt the same, but hearing it out loud made it heavier, more real. We started talking about distance, about how long two people can stay connected without being in the same place, about what would make sense. It was Niran who mentioned Europe first, not in a demanding way, not as a dream he pushed onto me, just as an idea. You have a life there, he said. Work, stability. I told him I was not sure what my life really was anymore, that the relationship ending had loosened something inside me. That is when the plan appeared. Not fully formed, not written down, just a direction. He would come visit me, see my world. We would take it step by step. The word visa entered our conversations carefully, as something distant, complicated, almost annoying. Nirand did not pretend it would be easy. He talked about paperwork, about requirements, about how long it could take. That reassured me. People who lie usually make things sound simple. The first money was not really money. It was a fee, an appointment, a translation. Small amounts, nothing dramatic. Things I would spend on a weekend, without thinking twice. He sent screenshots, forms, emails, names of offices I did not recognize. I Googled them. They existed. That felt important. Every step came with explanation. Why it was necessary, why it could not wait, why it had to be done this way. And every step came with reassurance. I hate asking you. I will pay you back. This is just temporary. I told myself I was being practical. This was not a gift. This was not support. It was an investment in a shared future. That is how I framed it in my head. An investment. Friends noticed the change in me. I was distracted, always checking my phone. When they asked questions, I gave simple answers. I am seeing someone. He lives in Thailand. I could hear the caution in their voices. But caution sounds a lot like negativity when you are already convinced. Niran never pushed. If anything, he was careful to pause when I hesitated. That made me step forward instead. One evening, he told me about a problem. The lawyer had made a mistake. A document was missing. It meant another fee, another delay. I felt the first flicker of doubt, not fear, just discomfort. But he sounded tired, not desperate, just worn down. I am so embarrassed, he said. I do not want you to think I am using you. That sentence stayed with me. Because people who use you do not usually worry about how it looks. So I sent the money, and when I did, the doubt went quiet again. Looking back now, I see how carefully the plan was built, not around greed, but around trust. And how every time I chose to believe, it became harder to stop believing at all. It started small. A missed appointment, a hospital visit, a document that needed correction. Each time, Niran apologized. Each time, he said it was temporary. Just one more problem, he would tell me. At first, I believed him, because I trusted him, because I loved him. The problems kept coming. A fee for the lawyer, and then a translation, then something else that could not wait. And every time, I felt responsible for him, responsible for the plan. I started skipping meals, working late to cover costs. Not because I had to, but because I thought I should. Some nights, I cried quietly in my apartment. No one could hear me. No one could understand. Niren always noticed. "I am sorry," he would say. "I hate that this is happening to you." The sincerity in his voice was perfect, convincing, and it was exhausting. Months passed. Every day, a new small crisis. Every day, a new small request. I told myself it was normal. Every couple has difficulties. And love is patience, right? One evening, he called me, voice low and tired. "My mother is sick," he said. "She needs an operation." Pause. I believed him immediately. I did not ask for proof. I did not question it. I sent money, and I told myself I was helping family. A kind thing to do, a good deed. But the requests did not end. There was always just one more problem. I remember thinking, why does it feel like I am always waiting for the next request, waiting for the next obstacle, waiting for him to finally be with me? I started planning my flight to Thailand, to see him, to see if everything could be fixed. The thought was terrifying and thrilling at the same time. What if it was all real? What if love really was waiting for me on the other side of the world? And what if it was not? I pushed the question away. By the time I booked my ticket, I had convinced myself of a single truth. I had to go. I could not stay behind anymore. The last few weeks were a blur. Hacking, goodbyes, airport lines. But in my mind, I already saw him. Niren, smiling, waiting. I did not see the exhaustion in myself. I did not see the holes forming in my trust. I did not see how deeply I was entangled. All I saw was hope, and the belief that, finally, everything would fall into place. The plane landed in Phuket in the early morning. The air was warm, humid, and thick with the scent of salt and exhaust. I clutched my bag tighter, checked my phone again. No messages. I told myself he might be running late. Traffic, work, some unavoidable problem. I walked through the airport, past people who seemed to belong here, past families greeting each other with hugs and laughter. I reached the exit, scanning every face. A smile, a wave, someone familiar, nothing. Minutes passed. I kept checking my phone. No missed calls. No messages. Nothing. The sun rose higher. Heat settled in my chest. I felt the first flicker of fear. I tried to remind myself. He promised. We spoke about this. It is just a delay. But deep down, I already felt the weight of doubt. Hours passed. I sat on a bench outside the airport, watching taxis come and go, tourists dragging their luggage, locals moving purposefully. And then my phone buzzed. A single message. "I am so sorry, my love. I had no choice." That was it. No explanation, no phone call, no apology that would make sense. Just words, typed, sent, and gone. I stared at the screen. I read it again and again. The words did not soften. They did not explain. They did not comfort. My chest felt hollow. All the calls, the messages, the little crises, the trust I had built, everything vanished in an instant. Hours later, I discovered Facebook groups. Other people. Same story. Same words. Same patterns. I realized then, I had not been loved. I had been part of a system, a carefully constructed plan, a web designed to make people believe in something real. How quietly taking everything they could. The money was not the worst part. It was the trust, the hope, the belief that love could exist just like that. That someone could be honest, kind, and present, and mean it. I spent the next few days in a quiet apartment, thinking, rethinking, questioning everything I had assumed. And slowly, I began to write down my story, not to accuse, not to warn, not even to make sense of it entirely, just to remember. Because the hardest part of being deceived is the quiet way it teaches you who you are and who you are not. I was not careless. I was not naive. I was human. And I had loved. And that is enough to tell the story.
Clara came to Thailand for a simple holiday. She did not expect to meet Niran. She did not expect to fall in love so quickly. She certainly did not expect months of promises, emergencies, and small crises to test everything she thought she knew about trust, hope, and patience. Each message felt urgent. Each request felt necessary. The waiting, the uncertainty, the quiet moments alone, it felt endless. And yet, in those moments, Clara realized what she had truly believed in. It was not the beaches, the sunrises, or the turquoise waters. It was not even the adventure. It was him, his words, his presence, or at least the idea of it. When the truth came, when the plane landed and no one was waiting, she realized she had not lost just money. She had lost certainty. She had lost the feeling that love could be simple. But in that emptiness, she also found clarity. She left Thailand with a new understanding of herself. Through disappointment, heartbreak, and the quiet ache of betrayal, she carried forward the lessons of trust and self-reliance. Clara returned home, slowly, carefully, with scars that would remain only as a testament to human hope, and as she regained her footing, her perspective grew stronger. The experience did not destroy her. T revealed what she was willing to risk, and what she would never compromise again. Thailand had started as a holiday escape. It became a place where hope, caution, and courage met. A place that reminded her, love can be fragile, but learning to trust yourself is what makes life whole. She moved forward, not because it was easy, not because it was safe, but because it was real. For Clara, that was enough. For those who wish to share their thoughts, reflections, or simply say hello, farangfootprints@gmail.com. Farang Footprints reminds us once again, love is not only about timing or perfection. It is about presence, about choosing clarity when uncertainty knocks at the door, and about carrying the lessons forward, even after the world has tested you.